So I got everything plugged in and ready to go, turned the key, and I got the dashes on the odometer. So that means the computer is grounded out or is not plugged in right. Something to do with the connection for the powertrain control module, or PCM. So here my kid wanted to lift his bike on the hoist and be like his dad and work on it. So I did stop to do that real quick. And then I had to go to the local middle school and go to a choir thing that my son had. So I had to stop what I was doing and go over there. And then I was going to meet my wife there too. She had the GT. And so I was thinking about all the things it could be. I even tried re-plugging in the CCRM in the fender, because that'll do it sometimes. I check the ground for the ECU or the PCM, which is by the battery in front, by the headlight on the frame there. And I started looking through fuses and thinking about it, because I thought it was going to be the CCRM or something like that, or a bad ground. I just rewired the grounds on that whole harness because it was cut, and there were some of them that I had to solder in and stuff, so I was hoping that I had done that right, but everything checked out nicely. So I started going through the fuses while I was at the school and waiting for the choir thing to start, and I just got on the internet and started going through all the different ones, and there is one for the PCM. And so I thought maybe the PCM is fuse is bad, and that whole harness and fuse box came out of my 2002 Sonic Blue GT that was wrecked really bad in the front and the back. So my wife got to the school, and we met up and stuff, and I was just going over all this stuff and trying to figure out what it could be. So I was excited to get home and try that out. But we spent a lot of time that evening at this function, and that was okay. It was just something to do as a family. Sometimes you have to stop your project and do other things. But I was excited to get home and go through all the fuses and see if I could find a blown fuse. Now, usually it's not. Those big fuses in the engine bay, they're usually good. I've never really seen one that went bad that I can remember, or blown, but you never know. When a car's in an accident, it could pop a bunch of fuses, depending on what systems you're running. Always nice to be able to take the Mach 1 in perfect running shape and go run errands and take a break from the project car and have a car that runs great. So I got home and, I checked on the things, and I did have those dashes, which are like, something you hear a lot about on the forums. People always have problems with that. And I was hoping that the computer wasn't fried or whatever, but I did open up the fuse box, and to my happy surprise, it was just that fuse right there, the big green one. So I have this huge tin of fuses that I have gotten out of cars from the wrecking yards and friends' cars that they were parting out and stuff. And sure enough, I plugged that in and instantly got the odometer reading. So when you don't have the dashes and you have the mileage reading, that's when it works. And as I went through, I noticed the fuse for the fuel pump was also dead. And so I wanted to drain some of the fuel out of the car, because it's been sitting in there for a year, and I didn't want bad gas in the new engine. And so the fuel pump fuse was dead, but I did put a new one in. And the fuel line is not connected to the fuel rail yet in this case. And so I put it in a bag, and I zip tied it tight around the rim of the bag. And you can see right there, it started. When I cycled the key, it started to put some fuel into the bag. And I wanted to do this as well quickly as soon as I had the system in the car working and the fuses and everything, because fuel pumps get really messed up from the ethanol when the gas sits in them for too long. So I just wanted to get this gas out of here. So I cycled it a bunch of times, and then I cut a hole in the bag and drained it into this gas tank. And I just wanted to get all that old fuel out of there, and that was okay. So next, I wanted to put on the drive shaft, because if you put transmission fluid in the shifter, that's where I like to add it, in the top of the shifter. You just dump it right in. It'll spill out the tail shaft of the transmission if the drive shaft's not on. So that's a mistake you do not want to make. And then you got to buy more fluid, and you don't know how much is in it and stuff. So with all that taken care of, I wanted to replace this taillight. This is just a busted up old one that my brother had lent me, so the car wouldn't sit in the driveway without a taillight. The previous owner had sold the taillights out of this car and parted it all out, and I was able to get this nice set of taillights at the wrecking yard, and it has the harnesses and pigtail and everything on it. So I was really happy to get that and be at the point where I'm ready to install these, because now that all the electrical is in shape, I wanted to get all of the lights running on the car. And to me, that's when a car starts to come back to life, is when you can turn on the lights and it's dark and you see all the lights of the car lit up, and it really brings the car back to life again. So that was something I was really excited about. So I wanted to get these all in and get everything ready and check all the lights, and especially with the transmission, I wanted to make sure that when you put it in reverse, the reverse lights go on, because I did get a different harness, a whole different engine harness, and I've heard that sometimes the transmission harness doesn't work with different years, so I want to make sure it worked. And I did have one blown tail light, so I had an extra bulb that I got for that, and so those are all operating now. So I pulled on the parking lights and the headlights and everything lit up, and so here's the car with lights working again. I was very happy about that. I think this looks great. It's really nice to see the car coming back to life, and it's got the engine in there and everything, about ready to start it up. So now with all the fuses and everything ready to go, I couldn't help it. I put oil in the car, and I just really wanted to start it. Now, I didn't have the serpentine belt on yet because I don't have the power steering on yet. I don't have coolant in the car yet. I just wanted to crank it over and see if it runs. I don't know anything about this engine other than I assume that it was a good running engine because the car it came out of was wrecked, and it seemed like it was driving at the time. And if you've seen the earlier videos, I've taken out an oil pan and it had a signature inside, so I think it's been gone through. But I just want to make sure that the engine runs and that it's not knocking or have any issues. And so it's time to start it up and to see how it works. And so at this point, the car has open manifolds, which means it has the exhaust that's bolted to the engine, but it doesn't have a mid-pipe, catalytic converters, exhaust. It doesn't have anything on it yet. And so that was an instant success. I'm very excited about that. That turned out great. You can see the smile on my face. I'm just really happy to have this car running again. And that's great. And so I just wanted to run it for a few seconds. Nothing big, just make sure it runs, make sure it had oil pressure, shut it right off, tried it again. Everything went great. So that's fantastic. You can tell I'm happy about that. Everything's going well. So that's the update for now. Stay tuned. There's a lot more to come for the car. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more Mustang content.